One summer when I was in high school, I took care of these two young boys, and they had both been in several car accidents, and they just had so much going on in life. They had a brother who passed away and a lot of hard things. So I was taking care of them just because I wanted to be a positive influence in their life. And I was pulling across a very busy street, and there was an older gentleman who was driving so fast, not paying attention, and hit our car before we could turn all the way across. When he did, I watched the young boy in the back. His head went through the side window, came back in, and the back window came back in. I was squished into a very tiny little space. It was a very hard hit. And our car spun around several times. There was glass everywhere. And I just sat there in shock. Both the boys, one was crying, one was knocked out. And I looked out the window, and this man in a white suit, it's such a movie. He was in a white suit with longish hair, comes over and he's like, "Get out of the car, quick, get out of the car." And I knew from just, I'd had basic training, you don't move bodies that are laying like in the back seat. But there was cars coming like really fast towards us. And so I grabbed the young man in the back seat and then had the young man in the front seat come with me. And I laid the one in the back seat on the ground, and he was still knocked out. And the one next to me, his brother was saying, "Did he die? He's going to die. He's going to die." And I said, "No, he's not going to die. He's going to live." I said, "Didn't you see that other man next to me?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "None of us have permanent injuries and we're all going to be okay." And I said, "Do you trust that?" And he goes, "I don't know who that man was. Where is he?" And we looked around and we couldn't find him. It was a wide open space. And this woman ran out she had heard the car accident, so she ran out with her, I think she had a cell phone or something. She ran out or called the cops and or 911. And she said, what just happened? And I explained to her, and I was bleeding in a couple areas. And so she said, "Oh my gosh." And she went and looked at the car, and cars were narrowly avoiding our car. I mean, it was almost hit several times. And she looks and she goes, "There's no way you got out of the front seat. How did you get out of the front seat?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And I looked. I could barely walk because my back was hurting, and there was only this much space in the front seat. And the young man in the back, his head had gone so far through the window, and there was gashes everywhere. There was blood everywhere on his body. It was terrible. So the cops come and the paramedics come, and they come and take us to the hospital. And by the time I got to the hospital, it's a long story short, I was mostly healed. By the time he was brought to the hospital, there was one cut this big on his head, and there was no blood coming from that cut. And there was so much blood that the cops thought he was just internally bleeding, externally bleeding. They just thought he was a mess. And when they cleaned him up, there was one little cut on his head, and they said, "This is impossible. What's happening here?" And I just knew that there was angelic help, that God helped us to get out of this car. That man was never found. He was never reported again, and he felt like the presence of God. He felt like an angel. And I remember just thinking, wow, God, you have assigned angels to us. Now, many of us know this. We know that there's angels. Some of you don't really believe in it, or maybe you believe, but you haven't ever partnered your faith to the fact that biblically in the Bible, there are hundreds of scriptures about angels. And we can get into the hierarchy of angels and archangels. There's only one mentioned archangel in the Bible. There's Michael, and then we have Gabriel, and we have Lucifer, and all these different things. We can get into that. But what I want to get into even more than that is the fact that God is the God of angel armies, and that Jesus himself had the angels ministering to him. Even I love Matthew 4:11. It says that angels came and ministered to Jesus. You have Luke 22:43, another scripture about angels ministering to Jesus. We have angelic help with humans. Hebrews 1:14, all through Daniel, Zechariah. We have the story of Mary, Joseph, Philip. We have stories where angels came and helped. And we should expect these moments that angels come, especially in times of great tragedy, in times of great sorrow. Angels show up. I remember one experience we had as a group. I took an internship of young leaders into a place called Moravian Falls, and we were all up there, and they were walking up, and it got really cloudy, and all of a sudden they could see figures walking towards them, and the presence of God came so strong that about 12 of these young people that were together fell on their knees as angels came and as the glory of God came, and they started to feel and see visions and feel the Lord, and so many powerful things happened, and they had a group experience that has branded them to this day. That was back in 2002 or 2001, and it's branded them to this day that God opened the heavens and they were able to see these angelic beings. I think it's so profound that God has all these ministering beings that are eternal. They're going to be around forever, and they're going to be around helping God and helping the glory of God just to fulfill its full purpose for all of eternity. And we're going to see these angels, and we'll know these angels one day, but in this side of eternity, they're obviously not very known. They purposely stay anonymous because they want the glory to go to God. Some of you have heard my story about meeting a prophet named Bob Jones. This is not Bob Jones at Bob Jones University, but this is a prophet who helped give words that helped start movements like the Send or the Call, Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, Rick Joyner's Morning Star Ministries, Mike Bickle's 24-hour House of Prayer and Intercession, Heidi Baker, just different people he's prophesied to throughout the years. He's now passed away. But Bob Jones, one of my favorite things about him is when I first met him, how I met him was we actually had a shared vision where he was in his city where he was at, and I was actually in my city. We hadn't met in a human way of meeting. And I had a throne room encounter where I saw the throne room of heaven. And when I saw the throne room of heaven, one thing that I saw during that experience, and had many things in this experience, was a line of angels that looked like they were about to fly down to the earth. I don't know how they fly. They didn't have traditional wings like you see in the pictures. I feel like so much of our art is so beautiful, but it's also not exactly real. It's not real-time art. It's just parabolic of what it could be like. And maybe my vision was even parabolic to some degree, but I remember I knew what Bob Jones looked like. I knew who he was. And I looked across the throne room. Bob Jones was across the throne room. When I saw him, we met eyes, and he smiled at me so big, like we had a knowing understanding that we would meet on earth. It was so wild. It was not like a philosophical thing or like maybe I'm just seeing a man like Bob Jones. It was Bob Jones. And there was a line of angels, and he went over to him and he handed them, like he had been praying, and he handed them what he'd been praying for them to go and do on the earth. And he's handing one after another. And as soon as he would hand it to him, they would go to the earth on assignment. And I said out loud, just under my breath, like, what kind of guy gives orders to angels? And there was an angel next to me who said, what kind of man who knows God wouldn't? Because this is what you're called to do, is partner with heaven to see God, the work of God fulfilled, to see Jesus get his great reward. And I had this understanding, like, I'm not activating heaven, the God of angel armies. I'm not activating the angel armies with God over my life. I mean, for guarding us and for energizing the purposes of God in our life. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands, millions and millions and millions of angels. And you think of that and you think they're here to help God supernaturally manifest in natural ways on the earth, solutions and supernatural resources and connections and all these things. And yet we ignore them, or because we don't see them, we don't put any emphasis on this at all. And yet the Bible is filled with these beautiful encounters. And I just think, you know, how amazing would it be if we understood how to do what Bob was doing? Well, a month later, I met Bob, and then after he goes, I've seen you before, and in front of all of his friends. And I told my friends about the encounter, so they knew it, and they were there as well. And I said, yeah, we saw each other in heaven. He goes, oh yeah, there's a line of angels. And I was praying and I was giving them orders, and they were going down and they were immediately doing what I had asked them to do because God had asked me to ask them these things. And you were shocked by it. And I said, I was shocked by it. And he goes, you shouldn't be shocked, because we're called not to talk to angels, not to pray to angels or anything like that, but to ask God, Lord, send angelic help, just like you helped Jesus, Father, right after he was tempted by Satan, just as you helped the disciples many times, just as you helped so many. Even when Peter came out of prison, they thought it was his angel because angels were so common. They were having such a powerful encounter with heaven overlapping earth that they were expecting that heaven could manifest. And they just thought it was his angel. They didn't know it was actually him. They thought a lot of times angels will appear as the human that they're guarding. If it's a guardian angel, they'll appear more in human likeness because they're so into God getting the glory. Satan did such a bad work in trying to get the glory and failure. And he had such a false identity, and he took 1/3 of the angels with him. And when you think about that, all the angels that are left are all about God getting the full glory. And so they're never trying to be a middleman in that picture. They're never trying to get credit. They're never trying to be honored. They give God all the honor. But we were made in God's image. We were made to be honored by God. We're made to be honored by heaven and then give God out of that place of honor. And angels are there to help us and to help God do that. I think that's so incredible. And I think many of you have probably had angelic encounters and visitations. I know there's magazines like Guidepost Magazine. There's magazines like Reader's Digest. We read in the 700 Club. You can read online in their news forums, or you could read on CBN News. You could read all these angelic encounters people have had throughout history and also in modern history. God is on the move, but we need to trust. Like when your children are going through something, when your family is going through something with their health, or if there's a breakdown in family, someone's leaving the Lord or not walking with the Lord, send the God of angel armies, send his angels to go and help. Ask for angelic help from heaven. Ask that God would energize all the goodness of his heart towards them through angelic help. Just like he helped those in the Bible, he wants to help you. And I hope this was a helpful video today. God wants to help you with angelic support. He wants you to have more than just natural support. He wants to empower heaven on your behalf. And I want to encourage you, if you like this video, make a comment down below. Also subscribe and hit the notification button. Also, we have an online prophetic training platform, which is all about mentoring you with 5 videos a week and also online coaching to help you process your journey of revelation. Come join the conversation there as well.